Now on to the second presentation, which is spices and vegetable ingredients. And to kick it off, I hand it over to Greg Estep, who's President and Global Head of SVI. Thanks, and over to you, Greg.
Can you hear me okay? Oh, obviously. Have to move it up a little bit here. So anyway, good morning, and it's a real pleasure to be here today. And it's a real pleasure to do this presentation with the nuts team. That it probably doesn't necessarily come out in the presentation, but we have a lot of collaboration and a lot of synergies with the nuts team. We share common customers. We work together quite a bit on agricultural programs. We share offices, and we share friendships and ideas, in truly Olam nature of mutual respect and teamwork. So we're honored to be here together with the nuts team. So, and also with nuts, obviously they got you very geared up for the break and some snacks and with a lot of food. We're going to, on the SVI portfolio, we're going to get you good and ready for lunch. So with that, we'll kick it off. So I'd like to introduce the team that's with me today. Brian Bohr is Global Head of Sales. Brian has been working with me in Conagra and Gilroy Foods for 10 plus years in sales. Prior to that, had quite a bit of experience in data management, agricultural data management. And so Brian's going to cover our sales today later on. Siva Subramanian is head of our innovation and quality. Siva's been 10 years with Olam. He's with technical leadership in the packaged foods business. And it was a real pleasure that Siva, showing kind of cross-functional skills, moved over to SVI, leading up innovation and quality for us. Prior to Olam, Siva had extensive experience with Unilever as well. And Dave Watkins heads up Ag Operations and Sustainability, 5 years with Olam, joined around the acquisitions around KFI and DeFrancesco. Dave has, in addition to that experience with Olam, 25 plus years in California agricultural operations. Probably started the same time as Dave, before the rules existed. So what I want to cover today is I want to give you a better understanding of the SVI portfolio, the strengths that we have in customer relationships, quality systems, California agriculture, and where we're going with this business. So just a quick snapshot. We have an attractive category of products. Spices and seasonings, tomato-based sauces have significant growth. Like nuts, all the products in this portfolio are on trend in health and wellness. We have global leadership. Today, we're the #1 industrial spice company in the world, with global leadership in onion, garlic, capsicums, and pepper. We have a global scale and reach. We're sourcing from 12 origins, we're manufacturing in 6 countries, and we're selling in 70-plus countries in this portfolio. We have a strong customer franchise. The origin of this business, going back with Gilroy Foods, is over 50 years old. And that history of companies that, or in the history of Gilroy Foods, it's gone from an ownership of McCormick to Conagra Foods to Olam today. So it's a 50-year history, but not a lot of transition in ownership. And with that, a lot of stability with customers, a lot of expertise in ag operations that Dave's going to talk about, and really, as I mentioned, a long history with customers. We're also to emphasize, we're not a trading business. We are an asset-intensive, integrated supply chain, from seed through processing all the way to our customer's door. And we have an experienced team. We've grown with the best talent from the acquired companies. We've grown with new ideas that have come in. And so collectively, like nuts, we have a lot of experience in this industry. Now, as I mentioned, we have an integrated supply chain. This is how we look at our business from seed management all the way to field plantations, primary processing, secondary processing, and finished goods. You can see, I'm not going to go into each product, but you can see that in a large part of our portfolio, we are participating from upstream to downstream. Our goal here going forward is anywhere that you see blanks, we're going to want to fill in those blanks. So our objective in this business is to be fully integrated all the way back from seed to finished goods in this business. And we have a global footprint. Much of our base is in California, or in the western part of the United States, but largely California. You can see those facilities over here on the side. But we have been expanding, and we'll talk about those expansions into South America, sourcing in Africa, recent expansion in Egypt, and then a strong base of manufacturing in China and Vietnam. Just to give you an idea, sourcing volume by region, roughly 79% is coming from the Americas, 20% from Asia and Middle East. And then in terms of sales revenue, about 2/3 of that is to the Americas, 20% Europe, and 10% to Asia, Middle East. And Brian's going to talk more about how we're balancing sales revenues going forward. I'm not going to go through all the details here in the history. What I want to point out is that this business started in 2000 with Olam and whole spice trading, moved 2002 into pepper and spice processing, and really in 2007 started with acquisitions in garlic. Now, I think there's a common conception that a lot of this business was all through acquisition. That's not necessarily true. And I'd also point out that probably in 2004 or 2005, I first met Shaker and Ashok. And we met, before, a couple years even before those acquisitions, talked about where I was running Gilroy Foods, talked about where I was going with the business. We talked about where Olam was going. And probably we would say there was some important dialogue that occurred in this area as to how we were building this business. So it's from that thought leadership, but it wasn't all about acquisitions. And I want to just point out a couple things that have occurred. One, 2011, we've done major facility expansions: U.S. onion milling, U.S. tomato canning, a greenfield in China garlic processing, and Vietnam white pepper. And we followed up with that in 2012, we initiated a greenfield in Peru for paprika. And we looked at an acquisition there, but acquisition didn't make sense. We wanted to enter the market, and we did it through greenfield. And then in 2012, we initiated further processing expansion on tomatoes with a 10-year supply agreement with a large company. From 2002 to 2012, we've grown sales revenue in this business by 30 times. And it's been a combination of acquisitions, greenfield, as well as facility expansions. This is a look at our facilities. This is an asset-intensive business. The size of these businesses from Gilroy Foods, having raw material storage, processing, finished goods storage, to new acquisitions in Egypt, Cochin. All of these are large facilities, sophisticated facilities. And I also just point out, here's our headquarters here in Fresno. And we run these businesses. They're sophisticated, and it takes a lot of technology and ideas to run them. So all the way from the raw material sourcing, robust, good agricultural practices that Dave's going to talk about, investing in new technology, X-ray equipment, sterilization, pasteurization, and also certification. Siva will talk about it. All of our facilities have the most rigid certifications in the industry, and that would be the BRC certifications. So it takes a lot of leadership that we have in quality to run these businesses well. So I do want to talk about acquisitions. They have been an important part of this business. The business we said in 2000 started out in origination and sourcing and trading. In 2007, 2008, conscious decision to start moving into primary processing of garlic and onion. Then from there, an adjacency with the onion business moving into tomatoes. What tomatoes did was started to move into farming operations, but it also brought a lot of primary, secondary processing capabilities, as well as moving into downstream, so canning and retail. From there, shortly after that acquisition, moved into Gilroy Foods. And Gilroy Foods then moved even further up the upstream. Gilroy Foods brought seed breeding and technology. It also brought global leadership in these categories. Gilroy was #1 in onion, garlic, and capsicums. And then it also brought further capabilities in primary and secondary processing. From there, we moved into Vietnam, and the strategy there was adding tropical spices to the portfolio, as well as seasoning or blends around curry and private label capabilities. And then most recently, Egypt, where we were looking for a new origin to take our onion business, and Egypt having good proximity or good agricultural conditions similar to California was a strategy why we started moving into Egypt. Most of these integrations have gone well. And why have they gone well? We have an established key senior management team. We've taken the best from both acquired companies and brought that together with Olam talent. The size of this business from 2006 has gone from 12 GATP members to 30, and we've gone from 2006, 100 employees to more than 4,500 employees. One of the things we've done in all these businesses, they all had brands. We quickly eliminated the legacy brands. We moved straight to Olam as the brand of this business. We applied the best functional skills and practices from acquired entities to the rest of the SVI group. So we look at strengths that all these businesses can bring, whether it's customer relationships, processing, engineering expertise, innovation, and quality. We've established sales hubs across key markets. Brian will talk more about that in the Americas, EU, Asia Pacific. And then we've strengthened common systems and processes. All of our businesses now are running SAP. Now, I'm going to call out, not everything has gone well, so the tomato integration, and I'm going to just talk about a few things on tomato integration. Still strategically very much on track with what we've talked about in this business. However, when we made this acquisition, got hit hard with a historic oversupply in the tomato industry. Both U.S. and China dramatically overproduced tomatoes. And then a new entrant like Olam coming into California unanticipated how aggressive the reaction was from competitors to a company with Olam's strengths and capabilities entering this market. Probably underestimated a little bit that reaction. So that really kind of distracted the management team fighting through a really tough situation. But all tomato processors were going through that same kind of situation. But in the last 2 years that we've looked at this situation, we've made a number of changes that are starting to really impact the business with the crop that we're about to process here next week. So what did we do? We reduced our focus on domestic paste. It's a low-margin commodity product. I mean, a common misconception is tomato processing, it's tomato paste. No, we have a broad portfolio of tomato products that we do. It's not all about tomato paste. So we reduced our focus on domestic paste, low-margin commodity. We refocused our strategy towards industrial exports. This year we'll be a major supplier of tomato paste to our business at Packaged Foods in West Africa. We added value-added industrial products. For example, the products were there, but we increased our focus around organic, diced, and crushed, resulting in improved margin mix. And then we've improved the capacity utilization of the retail lines with long-term agreements in canning. So today, the market outlook, actually we just got breaking news in California. The June 1st inventories in California just came out. Inventories are 21% below year-ago levels. And that was achieved with a 17% increase in disappearance over that time. All of that increase in disappearance is being driven by exports, which is why our strategy to shift into exports really was ahead of the market and is really starting to move us in a better position going forward. So we're very optimistic 2013. We saw this coming. We increased production in our facilities this year to position ourselves ahead of this market. So we feel good. Prices are moving up, lower production in China and EU, and we're very optimistic about the situation in tomatoes going forward. It's been a lot of hard work, been a tough market environment, but this team has really rallied together and moving this business forward. So just quick on industry dynamics. We see a couple areas of growth in this business. In the developed markets, health and wellness remains a trend. And we also see that as we have a portfolio of industrial ingredients, our customers are looking for simplicity in the buy. They want like a one-stop shop. So we see that as an opportunity to further grow the business in developed markets, as well as health and wellness, and then innovation, which Siba will talk about later. And then we also see that in the rest of the world, our ingredients are used largely in packaged foods. They're used as meat seasonings, prepared foods, instant noodles, food service snacks. So as these businesses evolve in emerging markets, that's a great opportunity for us to grow the business and grow sales. Just to give you an idea, kind of our positions in the market, onion, you can see this is our position globally. You can see our position is quite substantial in the U.S. and the market position that we have in Egypt. We see that U.S. and Egypt are major origins going forward, and we have a very strong position here. In garlic, we also are market leader, about 14% share here. We're more than half the market in the U.S. And China, market leader, low share overall. But the opportunity in something like garlic, as the industry becomes more sophisticated around food safety, around quality, there is a huge amount of opportunity here to increase that share as the market evolves around food safety and quality. Vietnam, we've gone in 10 years to establish market leadership globally, and the key origin in trade is Vietnam, where we have market position. Again, there's a lot of unorganized trade still globally in these origins. Similar trend in garlic. As this becomes more sophisticated in food safety, we see opportunities that large players that have food safety, quality systems, execution right, have an opportunity to grow share. And tomatoes, while we're 4% globally, 10% of U.S. today, may seem somewhat small, but these are, in tomato processing, these are highly relevant market shares. And here what we see, as we talked about, China and Europe have large percentage of share that's up in here. So even if we just said status quo, high probability that our share in tomatoes as we execute against that strategy has upside potential. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brian, Siva, and Dave. So Brian's going to talk about our customer relationships, how we cross-sell the portfolio, where we're going forward there. Siva's going to talk about quality assurance, but where we're trying to drive innovation in the business. And Dave's going to talk about agricultural operations and sustainability. I'll come back and recap it with our strategy. So thanks. So over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning, everybody. As Greg was mentioning and highlighted earlier, I think one of the interesting things is as you look at the SVI portfolio that we have a very diverse portfolio, but we also have global leadership in a lot of the categories that we play in. And we also move downstream, in a number of those categories, upstream and downstream, more than most other competitors that we have. And in looking at that, when we talk about kind of sales highlights, and this is, kind of what does it mean from a customer and marketplace perspective, as we look at where we supply, Olam is very unique, SVI is very unique, I think, against a lot of our competitive set and a lot of people that play in the food industry, and that we cater to all the different food categories or segments. And by those, when we talk about food manufacturers, these are sometimes referred to as FMCG, CPG companies, but these would include Unilever, Kraft, et cetera. When you look at the list of the world's top 10, we service 9 of those with our products. As you move down into what we would call industrial manufacturing or seasoning manufacturing companies, these would include Kerry, Griffith, IFF, major global players. We service all of the major global players in that category. When we talk about retail, as Greg highlighted in earlier slides, we do not only ingredients but also finished goods. So we do co-manufacturing and also ingredient supply to major retailers. So that would include firms like Aldi, Kroger, et cetera. And then lastly, the other major bucket would be food service, or what is often referred to, from a scale perspective, as quick service restaurants, the McDonald's, Burger Kings, Yum Brands, et cetera. We cater to all those groups. And in that, when you look at, for example, some interesting facts, when you look at the industrial supply that we provide to the CPG companies that play in the bottled spice space, our supply fills over 1 billion bottles a year on the shelf. When you look at the hamburger segment within QSR, our onions are served on over 2 billion hamburgers a year. As we move down, when you look at the Mexican segment, we do the dry ingredients for whether it's meat seasonings, topical seasonings, et cetera, but we also do the finished goods salsas for a number of chains as well. So leveraging both from an ingredient perspective and a finished goods perspective. As Greg called out earlier, we are the largest organic tomato supplier. Another interesting fact is when you combine our specialty vegetables and our tomato products, those equate to over 2 billion vegetable servings per year. And then lastly, when you look at some of the other dynamics, and we've touched on this across the portfolio, very much like the nuts team does as well, but within the snack food segment, instant noodles, dry soup mixes, all of those categories we touch in some form or fashion. As you've looked at the consolidation of the different businesses over the last 10 years, where we stand today with SBI, as Greg called out, is we have a customer base of over 1,700. We're servicing over 70 customers in over 70 countries, and with that, we've got an ever-expanding global sales force. And this is unique because as we look at these different businesses that we've consolidated, many of them that were somewhat regionalized. Even Gilroy Foods, which was arguably the largest, we were more a U.S.-based company. So as we've rolled up these different groups, we've been able to acquire expertise, talent, and market understanding, and that really equates to, as we stand today, we have 4 representatives based in Rotterdam that manage sales for the European theater. In the U.S., we have 16 representatives, some based in our central headquarters for sales and customer service in Omaha, but also embedded around the U.S. In South America, we have 2 representatives in Brazil and Peru. In Asia Pacific, we're building out that team. We have representatives now in Singapore, Vietnam, and India. And then lastly, as Greg mentioned, the headquarters for SVI is positioned in Fresno, so that these teams and these customers are supported by a very strong product leadership team of 8 people that assists us with competitive intelligence, marketing support, et cetera. And this last slide, some key things, and I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but I think this really highlights some unique things as we talked about before. The diversity of our portfolio is, to me, I think, very, very unique in the entire food segment. These aren't ranked. These are our top 15 strategic customers. They're not ranked. They're grouped by category rather than by sales, so don't be confused by that. But as you notice in the diversity, 2 of the major players are retail spice companies or retail spice bottle marketers. We have 2 food retailers or grocery store chains, 5 food manufacturers, 1 quick service restaurant, 3 seasoning manufacturers, and then we do a good deal of business through ingredient distribution as well. But as we look at this, one of the interesting things and one of the key drivers that we're really pushing our sales team to deliver is really, as Greg mentioned, cross-selling the portfolio, and that's cross-selling the products that we have today. But as Siva will talk about, and I'll mention a couple of examples here in a moment, in addition to cross-selling the portfolio, it's looking to how do we combine the assets, the expertise, and the products to create new products and new solutions for our customers. And this matrix, although SBI, and as we're consolidating the teams, is in its infancy, in looking at this, a lot of these X's have already been filled. Even though these were major strategic customers, we've started to sell new products and leverage those bridges that we've built to, as we've brought new products into the system, to be able to take advantage of the fact that we already have an existing customer relationship and trust and quickly introduce new products from other parts of the portfolio. In looking over here at the right, just some keynotes, and I think this is the important thing to note about the customer franchises, as Greg touched on. A number of these relationships, irrespective of where they came from, with all these different groups, all of them have contributed a number of different relationships, whether they be on a global scale or a regional scale. A lot of these relationships, we have, as Greg said, a 40-plus year history. In addition to that, with the trust and long-standing supply position and execution that we've shown and the relationship that we've built, we've been able to cultivate a real security in these customers, in that we have a number of long-term supply agreements, some of them as long as 10 years as we move forward. So in this base, our current customer base and volumes are very secure in many respects. And then the ability to extend those relationships and that trust and security in those supply relationships to other products will continue to move forward and be a primary point of focus for us. This list will be dynamic, though. And one thing I would highlight is the 4th line down on the food retailer. That relationship did not exist as a direct SVI relationship 18 months ago. And with the activities, some of it was being able to manage the relationships that Olam had in other categories. As we've moved through that, our first introduction of product was not something that we had ever produced as SVI as individual business units. It was the culmination of the expertise and various products and our production assets to create a new product that introduced and penetrated that customer. And with that, some of our biggest opportunities near term in the tomato sector, as Greg was talking about, et cetera, are linked to that customer now because of that one exercise. And with that, I'll turn it over to Siva to talk about innovation.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Greg. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In the next few slides, I would like to take you through how we spice up the entire food world through innovation and quality, and why innovation and quality is so important in the spices and vegetable ingredient business. Innovation and quality is an important pillar in the spices and vegetable ingredient business, because through this, we actually are looking at future value creation and future capability development for the spices business. Now, this also brings in a very clear competitive advantage to the spices and vegetable ingredient business and Olam, because we have the scale, we have the combination, and we basically spice up the entire food portfolio. So when a spice manufacturer or a bottler or a snack manufacturer thinks of innovation and they have a challenge, it becomes our challenge. So we basically practice the science of delivering innovations to spice up a product. So our customers are mostly demanding the highest levels of food safety and quality standards, which comes through great measurement. They're also looking for differentiated ingredients to spice up their portfolio. So we have to be consistently delivering ingredients which will have capabilities of color, flavor, texture, or particle size tailored to meet their requirement. So each customer of ours could be having a differential requirement, and that is our business. Delivering that becomes our daily bread. The second important aspect is that in the environment where there is an ever-demanding food regulation that's coming up, our customers seek expertise. When they seek expertise, it's very, very deep expertise that they are seeking. And hence, we have to not only engage in science, we have to practice that science with our customers. So we practice science alongside with our customers in our laboratories and in our customers' laboratories. The third important part is many times our customers also require cost savings in ingredients, because some of the ingredients become significant part of the product cost as it ends up on the shelf, and they're looking for enhanced functionality. So it could be like a tomato ketchup that's there in the market. The shelf price cannot change over the next 1 year. So what can we deliver in our tomato paste or in our diced tomatoes as a cost saving to our customers so that they are able to maintain their prices using improved functionality? That's our business. That's what we do in the innovation and quality team within the SVI business. And the most important part is linked to our agriculture. Quality systems that is being demanded by the entire food industry now is all about being able to trace it back to the field. And that is where our quality systems, our BRC certifications, our comprehensive quality management using the SAP ERP platform allows us to track every hour of production, every back to every field, and say that this is how we are able to trace it back. Now in the United States, it's highly developed, it's highly sophisticated. In some of our origins, we are able to take that practice and bring it back to those developing origins where we can replicate that systems, which will allow trust and long-term stickiness with our customers who are betting their brands based on our ingredients. So in the last 12 months or so, the SVI business embarked in creating the new Innovation and Quality Center, which we call as IQ, within the Fresno headquarters. So why is it important to be in this Fresno headquarters? Number one, it provides the proximity to us very close to the business teams. So the business teams are actually feeling, they are tasting, they are actually dealing with the ingredients that we manufacture, dealing with the customers who visit our center directly face to face. The customers enjoy it because they're saying that here is an ingredient supplier who invites them and say that, okay, come have with lunch with our ingredients. And that's our great competitive strength that the IQ Center provides. It obviously provides a much closer interaction because we are within the driving distance. The longest distance is about 4.5 hours drive to one of our facilities, which is the farthest. So within driving distance, plant has a problem, they need an expertise, okay, here you go. Over the last 1 year, we have developed a team of 15 scientists and quality assurance professionals who are basically passionately engaged both on two sides. On one side, we have the customer, the other side, we have plant operations. So we are connected both sides, we are connecting both sides through the passionate team of 15 scientists and engineers and quality assurance professionals. And that hence becomes a center of excellence, not just for the US, it also becomes a center of excellence for the worldwide SBI operations. So from there, we are transferring knowledge, we are transferring experience, we are bringing in people from across the world to our IQ center and saying that, okay, let's take the best practice from whichever part of the world and translate that. Just to give a few snapshots, as Brian mentioned, having multiple processing facilities, having multiple capabilities has allowed us, just in the last 12 months, to bring up several innovations that are very clearly relevant to our customers. We are not doing super duper science. We are very much engaged with our customers and saying that, okay, what do you want? How can we collaborate? For example, minced in water is a simple product. People might say that, garlic, minced garlic in water, what's so great about it? But it's combining our dehydration capabilities in Gilroy Foods, taking that dehydrated garlic to another facility of our own facility, where we have a different capability of bottling, pasteurization, labeling, delivering it as a portioned product now to our customer, allows us that competitive advantage which our competitors don't have. Similarly, recently we have embarked on a very important project, very much closely linked to one of our customers, where we said that, okay, we can combine the dehydro freezing capabilities in Modesto facility, combine it with a bottling capacity in Livermore and Williams, and deliver a proprietary technology-based product in oven-roasted tomatoes. When one of our customers, who's a snack food manufacturer, thinks of a barbecue-flavored chips, for example, or a cheese ball, for example, where does it come back? It comes back to us as a challenge, because the seasoning manufacturer is now looking for a specialty pepper. They're looking for a twist, and it comes back to us, and we provide that twist. We are saying, okay, we'll give you 6 twists, why don't you select one of them? We allow them into our facilities. We say that get engaged with us. We get engaged with them, whether it is to do with a color measurement, whether it is to do with consistency of flavor, whether it's to do with consistency of particle size or viscosity or anything. We are here because we have built that infrastructure. We are giving you ready-to-eat products which have gone through the required level of sterilization and microbiological quality management, which allows our customers to be confident of the product that they are getting from us. This is just a snapshot of some of our laboratories, and these infrastructure basically allow us to practice, but most importantly is our empowered team, which on a daily basis is practicing the science alongside our customers, alongside our plants, which actually brings in a truly competitive advantage for both the SVI business and Olam. Thank you. I'll hand over to Dave, who will take you through some parts of the agricultural operations and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Siva. Good morning. By now, you know that our business is highly integrated. On the ag side, we control every step of the process from seed development all the way through to finished product. We've been doing it for a very long time, and during this time, we have generated some very important competitive advantage that we enjoy today. So I'll highlight a couple of those and then talk about how we will leverage these assets that we have in improving our sustainability performance in our developing origins. This is a picture of our current California operations. We've been practicing our trade there for 60 years. And today we source more than 50,000 acres or 20,000 hectares of vegetables to supply raw material for our 6 processing plants. We today, currently, to do that, to execute that, we have 38 ag professionals working out of our Hanford, California headquarters that are working in every phase of the operation. It's variety development, it's agronomic R&D, it's seed production, it's crop management, harvest, and so forth. And collectively, this group represents an amazing amount of institutional knowledge, and we view that as a key asset Finally, as we have consolidated these product lines into the platform SVI, we have readily been able to take advantage of important opportunities to become very partnered with key growers in our best growing areas with the best ground. And so we are able to participate in crop planning with these key relationships for many years going out. The net result is we get very good grower stickiness with these key relationships, and we've been able to be very competitive in our sourcing costs by doing this. We talk a lot about solids in our business. Nearly every SKU that we make, we either dehydrate or we concentrate in some way. And solids is a measure of dry matter in the raw material, and that is what drives the recovery of finished product per input of raw material and all the associated costs that go with that. And so tenths and hundredths of a point make an important difference when you're dealing with the kind of volumes that we deal with. So the focus of our variety development program is, we select for a broad range of characteristics, but it always comes back to solids. And we know that we enjoy a competitive advantage in this area. It's not based on anecdotal perception. We can measure it. We sample competitors' fields. We can quantify that difference. And we have one really notable example of that, and I have a slide to share, and that's with our dehydrator onion varieties. Crop procurement, our contract grower base, some of them we have relations that go well more than 50 years now. And we have been very successful in adding control to these relationships through the use of good agricultural practices. And we have well-defined practices for every commodity, and it addresses the important issues around the relationship. It's compliance around pesticide use, it's environmental health, it's optimizing crop quality and performance, and importantly, as Siva mentioned, it's all about food safety, and that's where it starts, is in the field. We mechanized the harvest of most of our commodities many, many years ago, but we've maintained a focus on the continuous improvement there. Today, we have 71 self-propelled harvesters, we have 135 tractors, and 33 planters. This represents a huge installed capacity to plant and harvest our commodities. And so we stand back and look at all these things. We've got the human capital, the institutional knowledge. We've got varieties that have important competitive advantage. We've got good agricultural practices. We know how to run this business. And we've got extraordinary abilities to mechanize. And so there are a lot of moving pieces. It's fairly complex. We've gotten very, very good at it. And these all represent capabilities that can be deployed as we look at opportunities in our developing origins again. This is the slide I was talking about that shows performance of our onion varieties. We started breeding onions 50 years ago, and we took a 10% starting point, 10% dry matter in the onions, and today we are pushing 26%. And this chart just shows the gain that we've made in the last 12 years. And this improvement in dry matter has saved us having to produce 18,500 acres of dehydrator onions for our process. It also saves all of the inputs that go along with that. It's gallons of diesel to harvest and freight the onions to the plant. It's freight loads, it's acre feet of water, nitrogen pesticides, as well as the natural gas and the electricity that is consumed, converting it from raw to dry product. And so this tells, that's actually enough to supply our onion business for more than a year. It's remarkable. And that is a compelling cost reduction story. It's an even more remarkable story when we talk about it in terms of sustainability and are producing more crop per drop of input. This also compares our onion performance with, in California with other, well, the two other important producers of dehydrated onions, India and Egypt. And whether it's on a raw pounds per acre, dry pounds per acre, dry pounds per unit nitrogen, or per acre foot of water, again, our performance stands out. And so this represents an important piece that can be, we can move the needle very quickly as we start deploying these assets to our other origins. And this is really very exciting. I mean, immediately as we take onion seed to Egypt, virus-free garlic, and go to Peru with our pepper lines, we can realize important gains in these types of measures. We are also have a pilot program with the Sustainable Spices Initiative, working with pepper farmers in Vietnam. IPM is integrated pest management, very important initiative, a large one in our pepper farming in India. And then we'll be teaching all about our good agricultural practices and sharing the knowledge that we've built after having been in this business for such a long time. And then finally, growing responsibly is obviously a very key thrust for Olam company-wide. And this is driven largely by things I've touched on already, the ag development work. But also we have initiatives across our manufacturing operations. And just to highlight one, in lowering our carbon footprint, our largest plant in California is our Gilroy Foods plant in Gilroy. And we just received ISO 50001 certification recognizing, and this is the first plant in the United States to receive this recognition or certification, recognizing how much we've been able to reduce energy consumption. And and in that we have committed to future energy efficiencies as we go. So very important. And then these other things really revolve around reducing waste, and a key part of it also is really embedding into the culture, into the employee base about sustainability, and that's very exciting. We've come a long way. We're working with community projects as well, social projects, just a lot of things going on in the communities that we work with. So, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, Greg.
So thanks, team. I'd just like to recap. So hopefully we gave you a better understanding of the portfolio, our capabilities, and how this business has come together through conscious decisions, whether it was acquisitions, greenfield, plant expansions, how we were building this business and what our objectives are. So I hope we gave you a better sense of that. And also just what are the current strengths that we've brought together through these acquisitions and decisions to grow this business. Brian gave a sense of where we are on our customer relationships, highly value those relationships and many years that they've existed, but also new relationships that we've brought in. Siva talking about quality systems, quality assurance. You can't be in this business if you're not providing that kind of assurance to customers today. And as Dave talking about the strengths that we've developed, up to 60 years of experience in California agriculture, and all the techniques that we've developed from seed breeding to really sustainable forms of agriculture. But where are we going with that? Brian talked about with customers and how do we take that relationship with customers to the next level. It's about cross-selling the portfolio. It's about following our strategic customers with their global expansion plans. And it's about seeking emerging customers in emerging markets. Siva talked about innovation and quality. Quality assurance, while we're very strong at it, the regulatory environment every day is becoming more complex. New regulations in all parts of the world, whether it's China, U.S., Vietnam. We have to stay ahead of that. and our customers are looking for it, and it's an opportunity for us to differentiate our services. On top of that, we want to move to more innovation in this business. So now that we have this portfolio, we can combine ingredients, provide the elements of our portfolio, the ingredients in that portfolio, to provide innovative solutions to customers. Siva gave some great examples of the kinds of things that we're just starting to do. And then Dave talked about ag ops. Really, at the core, our competitive strength with those grower relationships and what we do, that's really core to what we do, and what we've developed. But we want to take that expertise in seed, farming, processing to all origins. And we have picked strategic origins, either through acquisition or greenfield, that have either climatic conditions or have farming-type conditions that would be conducive to the way we've done things in California. So it's not that we're looking to have a footprint in every country. We're looking for places that we're able to take our farming and our processing expertise and grow that in other parts of the world. And we want to make sure that we do those operations in a sustainable way. We understand that the ingredients that we supply, Brian talked about it, they're going into the who's who of food manufacturers. They're going into the who's who of food retailers. They're going into the largest quick service restaurants in the world. We have a big responsibility to make sure that we are great stewards of the supply chain for these customers. They expect it. It's an opportunity for us to grow the business as they grow. It's an opportunity as other customers understand those kinds of requirements. It's an opportunity for us to further grow the business. So we want to be great stewards of the resources that are necessary for producing and processing our businesses. Everything from land, chemicals, fertilizer, the water that we use, the air that we emit from the quality of the air that we emit from our plants, all the way through, good stewards of that. And really to bring that together in how Olam does it across businesses worldwide, whether it's the Livelihood Charter, initiatives around growing responsibly. Very much we want to integrate those kinds of programs into the rest of the company. So really, we thank you for your time, your attention, your interest in SVI, and with this, we'll move over to Q&A. Thanks.
Thilan Vikramasinghe, HSBC. Just want to get a bit more clarity on your tomato business. We've seen a lot of pressure on that business for the last few quarters. When do you see that? When do you see that coming through? When do you see that? When do you see a turnaround?
Is this on? Yeah. Okay. So next week. So we'll be starting to process the 2013 crop July 1st, I think, is our latest estimate. So so with that, we've put a number of initiatives all the way from the field to processing to improve the processing in the business. We've implemented a more robust SAP system, more robust systems in terms of everything from seed to finish. So so that's going to be starting with the 2013 processing season. In the meantime, I talked about changes that we've made in our go-to-market. So less emphasis on domestic paste, more emphasis on exports in the business, more emphasis on the value-added products, and more emphasis around the canning and retail relationships, or canning and glass lines and retail relationships that we have. So all of those, with the 2013 crop, we're increasing production. We're not increasing production on speculation. We're increasing production because we already have line of sight to the customers. Already, a fair amount of the 2013 production is already sold. So, as I mentioned, integrated with the packaged foods business, but other key customers in Europe, Middle East, Latin America, we've seen growth. So, so that's I'm not being facetious or anything, but to say that we're very optimistic and we're looking forward to kicking everything off next week.
Just following up, I mean, you've seen new tomato paste lines opening up in Africa, particularly Nigeria and so on. How much synergies do you see that bringing in? From what I understand, you were bringing in a lot more tomato paste from China for those operations and not really from your own operations in the U.S. How do you see that? How do you see that panning out?
Yeah, so a lot of synergies, all the way from, I mentioned Siva was involved in the packaged foods business. He knows those operations. He's been instrumental in building it. So he knows, by coming over into SBI and being part of the tomato business, he knows the products, he knows the services we need to provide, and so we've gotten out ahead of that. Or let me also add in terms of services and how there are synergies. In the operations in Ghana, we provided, I think we made several trips and quite a few weeks. We sent experts from the processing plants in California that spent time in Ghana to help with technical elements of that startup. So, synergies across different businesses, to help be successful. Now, why, I mentioned that going back to 2009, there was a significant production of Chinese product, and China was, a significant competitor to U.S. in export markets. In the last 2 years, seeing a dramatic change in Chinese tomato production. Production has gone probably from, I think officially roughly 10 million tons, probably unofficially was 12 million tons, to where China this year is probably going to produce 4 million tons. So there's been a significant reduction in production in China's ability to compete globally. So inflation from land, raw materials, to processing costs, labor, energy, all of these things have severely impacted the Chinese industry. At the same time, China has a growing domestic market. So you're seeing a shift in processors going to meet that domestic market. We estimate right now that about 25% of Chinese production is for domestic use. It's probably growing at, on tomato-based products, 15 to 20% per year. So you're already seeing major producers in tomatoes in China starting to shift their focus away from export into domestic. So this started really in the last couple of years, but it's really becoming transformative in the industry heading into 2013 pack season.
Thank you.
Phil from Morgan Stanley. Can you talk a bit about your upstream operation, such as the amount of farmland or plantation you have, and what's your annual products or production like?
I'm going to turn that one over to Dave, and he can cover that for you.
Am I on? Yeah, good. It's right now the model is around classic small farmer stakeholder, and we have initiatives to integrate further and grow our own plantations. I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question for me.
Okay, where I'm coming from is just looking at page 13 of your slides.
Right.
You talk about integrated business model, and you have one portion that's talking about upstream. I just wanted to know how integrated are you with respect to upstream farm production? How much is from your own plantation?
In Vietnam.
No,
Come
I
again?
think you're talking the entire business, or are you talking a
just
specific portion? I'm sorry.
Your spice and vegetable ingredient business?
Yeah,
Oh, I
so
see.
let me, sorry, if you may cover. So if you look at the U.S., and maybe what you're getting at is that in this business, our crops need to be rotated. So we can't, it's not like we can plant tomatoes for 10 years in a row. So it's not really for us, when we talk about upstream and farming, it's not really about owning farmland, because that would get us into things like hay, it would get us into wheat, it would get us into corn production. So it's not that we're looking to own farms in the production. But what we do have is the seed, in terms of onion, garlic, capsicums, and some of our other products, we do all the seed breeding. So when we go contract with the farmer, it's really a partnership with the farmer. The farmer has the land, the farmer has the water, and the farmer is a good steward of production. But what we're providing is that we're providing seed. We do the planting, we do the harvesting, we give guidance on the good agricultural practices that Dave talked about. So it's not 100% farming, but it's very a strong coexistence with those producers. Now, when we take that expertise in other parts of the world, we will try to replicate that in these other markets with those products. Now, if you look, so that's related to onion, garlic, capsicums, tomatoes, all of that where we have seed, where we know the planting, we know the harvesting. If you look at the spice industry today, that industry is going to be with very small holders and has multiple handoffs in the supply chain as to how product. So it's not in where the business is today. It's not exactly easy to go in and just be farming in the traditional growing areas. Now, as traceability becomes more important in spices and things, we are looking at, and also traceability, but also very strong growth and consumption of spices, we are looking at new areas where we could explore the potential to go into farming to secure those supplies, integrate the supply chain, and provide 100% traceability to customers in those products. So, but today that's in exploration. So it's something, as I mentioned, it's a desire of ours to be fully integrated back to the farm. We think we can do that in most of the products, and spices, we're exploring how we can get there as well.
Given that you have put a lot of importance on traceability, may I ask, what's the percentage of the products do you contract from, say, small farmers, as you mentioned, and how much do you grow on your own?
So first of all, I'd say on traceability, it's the emphasis on traceability, one, it's ours, but it's also that it's driven by customers and consumers. So a growing trend everywhere in the world is that people want to know where their food comes from. So that trend translates into a desire to have traceability, and therefore it translates into us to compete in order to have the most traceable supply chain in what we do. So if you look at the majority of our products are fully traceable, with the exception largely of the spices, which is coming historically from small farms and has this handoff of when I'm talking spices, I'm talking pepper and some of the tropical spices. So that area, it's very difficult to go 100% traceability, but we are striving to try to get there. Not just whether it's from growing our own, but Dave mentioned in Vietnam working on sustainable spice initiatives. That's working with areas where we can work with farmers, smallholder farmers, work with them on improving yields, work with them on improving the inputs, and see if we can help them move that product all the way to the supply chain into our plants. So we're going to try to get there. I can tell you that the majority of our products in our portfolio are fully traceable, and we'll strive to increase that percentage.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Conrad from Macquarie. Can I just check within the overall edible nuts and SVI division what percentage of, let's say, the net contribution your division contributes?
Yeah, I don't think I can answer that. It's first of all, I mean, it would, it changes every year as well. I mean, these markets are fluctuating in price and different things. So even to say what that percentage is, it'll change year to year.
But is it ballpark half or is it a quarter?
I can't really get into.
All right.
It's ballpark half, plus or minus 20%.
All right, got it. And then on the slide where you showed the competitive positioning versus competitor A and B, is it usually the same competitor A and B?
No, and that's a great point, is that when we talked about this business, we're looking to be the leader in industrial spices. We have no other competitor that's trying to bring the spice portfolio together, bring these origins together. So in each of those bars there, it's a different company. So it's really just to give a sense in that market and who the competitor is.
Is there one competitor that you would say is kind of your main competitor, or?
In onion and garlic and capsicums, one company would be Sensient Technologies. That would be the one other company that competes in multiple products there.
So, what's the name of that company? Sorry.
It's Sensient Technologies.
Sensient. And then you also talked about where you showed the matrix of the products that you have and what you're doing. You wanted to kind of fill in a lot of the gaps. Over what time frame is that going to take place, do you think?
I'd say over the next 3 years.
Next 3 years.
If you look at the acquisition we just did in Egypt, Dave and his team we are already moving seed from the U.S. and we'll start planting high solid proprietary onion seed in Egypt next month, and that's an acquisition we just did last year. So we're going to start with one. We have to validate the seed and we have to validate the growing conditions. But it's a trial, but it's actually a pretty sizable trial, and we're taking smart risks there. We think that we want to scale that up as fast as we possibly can.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Patrick here from Citigroup. I just wanted to maybe get back to your earlier statement about the competitive response, from the competitors when Olam made the entry being larger than thought. Could you elaborate a little bit on those, the action that came from the competitors as the acquisition went through, and what has changed now that some years have passed?
Well, one, I think it's what did competitors do? First of all, it was really, I would say it was a market share battle. You had a situation, as I described, you had an oversupply of production. So everybody had extra material. So you look at a business that's in transition, and so one is about an aggressive reaction, but it's also a situation that has an oversupply. So there's a big battle over share, and I think that you have with competitors, they don't know your situation. So you have a lot of bad mouthing. So an example would be Olam. They don't have a history in tomatoes. We're in the business for 20 or 30 years. You should buy from us. A lot of things that I don't think recognize the value and Olam coming into the tomato market. So I would really say it was around sales and a battle around share. So again, what's changed is, one, if you go back, this acquisition was really very forward-thinking in the issues that were evolving in China and forward-thinking in the development of the business in West Africa. So what I talked about, a lot of this was timing and a very difficult market situation that preoccupied, the team. Now what you have evolving is and what I wanted to get across in there is that this situation is dramatically changing, and felt when the acquisition was made that the marketplace would change. What's happening now is, frankly, that the change is occurring much faster. If you have China going from 10 to 12 million tons of production, dropping in the last 2 years to 4.5 million tons of production, and China was the main competitor, that is a dramatic change. And at the same time, Europe is decoupling from subsidies and support to agriculture. We looked at Europe the other day. The price of raw material in the U.S., and this is profitable returns to farmers, is $70 a ton. The price of tomatoes in Italy is 100 euros a ton. And I don't think the processing costs are any cheaper in Europe. So you have some transportation, but transportation becomes more efficient every year. So now that's all materializing. Every year the subsidies become reduced. So that's why we've seen significant increases in our exports into Italy. And we were getting out ahead of that. So that's why I think that, combined with changes we made, combined with a smart outlook on the market, And faster changes in terms of global S&Ds gives us reason to believe that the situation has changed.
Thank you.
It's Chuck from Morgan Stanley. A follow-up on tomatoes, I guess. My perception was that you also had an issue with regards to food safety and quality issues at SK. Can you give us some insights into what you've done to improve the perception of quality from your plants and to regain customer confidence?
Yep, I'll turn that over to Siva. So, a great question.
Okay, thank you for your question. In the last 4 years, immediately after the acquisition of the tomato business, actually Olam started putting in quality systems in place, and within 1 year, actually we acquired the BRC certification of A grade within all our facilities. Combined with that, the tomato industry actually has a fantastic practice of quality management systems, which is both governed by the CLFP, the PTAB, which is the Processing Tomato Advisory Board, as well as the most important being our customers are welcome to audit our plants. The food safety and the quality measurements and the assurances that we provide to our customers are validated by our customers as well as by third-party processing advisories and consultants, which we've been engaging in the last 4 years. On top of all that, it's become a very transparent system with the SAP platform where our customers are allowed, if they want, to look at every hour of production and what the quality measurements are, what the food safety systems are in place, and we get like 70% of our customers audit our facilities. So this has moved strides and strides to ensure that we have amazing capability, which is also as transparent as our customers require.
So do you think you're at the point now where you've regained credibility in terms of food safety and quality from what it was leading up to the acquisition? Obviously, this was all before Olam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, prior to the acquisition, whatever was it, but I think after the acquisition and in the last 4 years, we've gained tremendous appreciation from many of our customers.
Can you give us any numbers with regards to the average selling price versus the industry average to give us confidence in that?
I'm sorry.
Is there something we can look at in terms of numbers to get comfortable that the customers are willing to pay the same price to you for your tomatoes as they would to another?
Oh, absolutely. Our customers, in fact, many of our customers, in some part of the world, like Japan, are willing to pay a premium. If that can be, it can meet their standards, and when it can meet their quality standards and quality attributes and food safety, they're willing to pay a premium, actually.
But, okay. Just another question is, can you give us any update on the Egypt acquisition that you recently made, that's your most recent in this business? Given all that we're seeing in the news in the Middle East, I wonder, is that having any impact on this business, or is it performing as expected?
First of all, I'd say, it's like anything. When you read the news, you're gonna see the sensational story in the news. I made 4 trips to Egypt last year. I've been in Tahrir Square. I've been, and I would go home and watch the news and see all these protests, and I would be there that day and say, I didn't see this even happening. So sometimes, the news can cause, a different view of something. Meantime, we have plant operations, we have suppliers, we have customers that really rely on that supply, rely on their, for their livelihoods, and very much welcome the acquisition and very much welcome the partnership with the people that they're there. They've built a great business, but they didn't have things like seed technology to take it to the next level. It's not to say that there's not, with the situation in Egypt, there's not volatility. So we've seen changes in raw material pricing. We've seen changes with the currency depreciating quite a bit. Works in our favor. So basically, and I also feel that we have, good management skills in terms of risk management, and we work with our risk office around managing this kind of volatility. But also, for us, Egypt, or I'd also say it's meeting expectations from what we set out, and it's meeting as well our objective to move seed, and we've also had significant exchange of engineers and manufacturing expertise to improve productivity in the plant as we set out. So all of that is taking place. We think that, so I would say that even through all the volatility, we feel we're making progress. I also talked, in Egypt, we talked about market share was roughly half. But what we've seen is that competitors through the situation are having more difficulty. So right now we're actually gaining share as well in Egypt. So the question becomes, how fast can we get the seed over there and secure supply? Because I think we have an opportunity to grow that business on target with the acquisition, and maybe there's a chance to do better.
All right. If there are no further questions, thank you very much for your time this morning. Do collect a small souvenir gift bag on our edible nuts and SVI portfolio on your way out. Thank you.